So here's another possible location for God. We might be imagining that out of all the possible universes, God chose to create the one we're in because she prefers creativity over destruction, life over no life, order over disorder, and so on. Are those phrases also big picture memes, ways of organizing the information that becomes our reality? Sure. But the question then becomes, if those other less productive universes do really exist out there within the universe, did our God create them? Or are there other gods out there who created those other universes because of their own preference for a different kind of universe than the one we live in? A pantheon of gods, both benevolent and malevolent, spring to mind then. A distasteful idea to some, an appealing idea to others. What about the fifth dimension? If our universe of space-time is being constructed one frame at a time by quanta that are each one Planck length away from the next, then I propose that the probability space of the next available branches is contained within the fifth rather than the fourth dimension. This means that as we're constructing what feels like a fourth dimensional line of time, we're actually twisting and turning in the fifth dimension, which gives us a way to imagine how this fifth dimension and above could appear to be curled up down at the Planck length for us, and yet those higher dimensions could also contain the astonishingly large concept of the multiverse filled with universes which we've come to imagine. If everything from the beginning of time within our specific universe is the result of an observation of the quantum wave function, then the fifth dimension looks like a great location to place God, and to see how we're all connected together through the consensual reality that we share. Each is our own quantum observer. In other words, the combined quantum observer effect that creates our universe right from the Big Bang to now could be God. As I say in my book, the reader may notice here that it would be very easy to substitute God or the Creator in place of the observer in the above paragraphs. In fact, if the reader is comfortable with the concept of each of us being an expression of God, created in his or her image, each with a holy spark within, then the two viewpoints are quite compatible. On the other hand, though, the image of a God who is separate from, standing in judgment of, and meting out punishment to us all is much less compatible. What we're describing here is a reality where each of us is creating an expression of a specific aspect inferred within the white noise of the 10th dimension through our individual roles as quantum observers. If the reader finds it's easier to accept the phrase, "I am an aspect of God," than they do the previous sentence, then they should feel free to use that as their jumping off point instead. As we discussed before, the 10th dimension, as we're conceptualizing it here, is really the boring part of our discussion because it simultaneously contains all possibilities. If we choose to imagine a creator God who is manifesting himself or herself through each one of us, we are imagining an observer who is cutting cross-sections out of the 10th dimension to examine the much more interesting and highly detailed subsets of reality which are contained within the dimensions below. Okay, and back to the blog. People who say that God works in mysterious ways, and then what feels like bad luck may actually be a part of God's master plan, would be fine with leaving God in the fifth dimension. Personally, here's where I stand with that idea. Try as I might, I can't imagine a God who has deliberately created a world that allows evil and inequity to exist as part of his or her plan. Is there a force for destruction and selfishness and chaos that helps to make our world less beautiful than it could be? For any specific universe, I have placed all the timelines that could potentially have existed, but some of which are now unavailable because of what has come before or what comes after, out in the sixth dimension. And if we're going to imagine that there are forces doing battle to create the world we live in, then that battle must be raging in the sixth dimension. The good guys don't always win, and bad luck happens to the best of us, which would mean the chaos and deliberately chosen paths that cause one part of our world to prosper while so many others suffer is part of the temptations and bad choices that each of us have to acknowledge exist out there in the sixth dimension for our specific universe. Which leads me back to the seventh dimension. If God is the pattern that created the world and the universe we live in, I think that's the best place to find him or her. But I can see arguments for placing God in other dimensions, including the 10th, or even across all dimensions, depending on your own point of view. There's a couple of videos that were attached to the blog, which we're not going to watch in the video blog today, but they are called The Unseen Eye and What Was Done Today. And I encourage you to do searches for those videos as well, if you'd like to see some of the other explanations that I got into in talking about those ideas, or if you just search at 10thdimension.com/blog for the blog entry that is called "Is God in the Seventh Dimension?" You'll find those videos appended to that blog. So right now, then, I'm going to go back, just close the window I'm in right now, and talk a little bit more about some of the ideas that people have been exploring in the chat logs. Moving on then from, I was talking last time about some of the ideas that John got into, and John's an amazing guy. He gets into some discussions here in this chat window that I encourage the rest of you to join in with, because he's got an amazing mind for putting connections together that most of us would probably benefit from exploring with him. I was about a week before the blog entry that we just read. I was talking with him about the songs that I had written for this, and how this had started out 20 years ago for me as an exploration of the nature of reality. And at that point, I was working on a science fiction play with a playwright. I was writing the music for it, and I tried to convince him that the what I've learned in the last few years, the many worlds version of reality, that was what I was trying to convey to people 20 years ago. The branching possibilities that exist across the fifth and sixth dimension can all be joined together as a single point in the seventh dimension. And but also the music that I wrote for that play was based upon the system of tens that I've been experimenting with. And that means that if you look at a guitar, there are 12 frets from the first note up to the octave. I had a guitar constructed that only had 10 frets, which meant that all of the notes that defined the music that was created for that show sounded completely different and somewhat alien. It was like music from another universe. I also experimented with 10 beats to the bar and 10 subdivisions to the beat in the music, and it was a fun exploration that I'd still like to get into as some of the ways that we can explore some of the ideas that are part of this way of subdividing reality into 10 dimensions. So I'm just going to flip here to the next page and see some of the other discussions that have happened over the next while. Somebody says, oh yes, this is the quote I already referred to. Somebody calling themselves Flat Earther complained about me trying to misappropriate Professor Dawkins' work, and they say, the science of this is a bit reductionist. That sort of wishy-washy, if you believe it, it's true for you nonsense is very troublesome. Are we proposing that time is non-linear? And then a couple minutes later they say, that's enough. What a misrepresentation of Professor Dawkins' work. That's what you get for writing science in a flowery light. And they left the room. I embrace that just as much as any other viewpoint. If your belief system is not willing to acknowledge that there could be anything other than the reality we see before us, then that would be a representation of what this person calling them Flat Earth, or odd choice for a name,